All right, the first call that you got telling you that your medicine was coming
Right.
was by Leona?
Yes, Leona. And she said that the best thing to do as soon as it comes is to drink the contents.
Okay, did you open that package when it arrived?
Yeah.
What was in it?
All kinds of things, green fluids and Drano crap. I don't know what it was. It was stuff. It was poison, basically.
You turned it over to me, right?
Yeah, because I didn't want to do it. I decided by that point that the book was more important. I had spoken to Ron, and I decided the EOC was not an alternative, unless this didn't sell. See, if this doesn't sell, where people don't read this, then what good is my life?
Okay. You got a second package?
The second package, I opened the top of it, and they were some kind of bottles, about 6, 7 bottles.
Did you get a call in connection with that package?
Yes, I did.
Was it before or after?
Before.
Who called you?
Ray
Ray
Jordan.
Why would Ray call you the second time as opposed to Leona?
I don't know.
Okay. What did Ray say?
He told me that it's a spray, and I was supposed to breathe it in.
What did you say to that?
I said, we're still talking about the EOC. He said, yes, we are. This has to be handled.
That's a package you also turned over to me.
Yeah.
And we also showed
Right.
the FBI agent yesterday both
That's
packages,
right.
1 and 2. Right. What about this package?
They didn't tell me what's in the package. Charlie Fox called.
And when did he call? You
He
got
called-
this package today, right?
Yeah, but he called on either Monday or Tuesday.
Of this week?
Yeah. I don't know exactly when. I think it was Monday.
So that would have been either October 31st or November
No,
1st?
it was Tuesday.
November 1st?
Yeah. And he said that this is the last package you'll ever receive. I'm fed up with you. And he hung up.
And then this package came.
To yesterday. But I didn't, we decided not to open
You didn't
it.
want to pick it up?
I didn't want to pick it up.
Okay.
I'd like to know what's in it.
Well, we'll turn it over to the FBI as they request. Let me ask you a few questions about some of the other past lives that you've had.
Sure.
Okay. Do you recall anyone's significant other than being Malchut and the concentration camp?
Yeah. I'm talking about lots of them on the whole track, you know.
Any that lasted any particular great length of time?
Well, there were jobs where I was on post for a long time. There was a job where I was the spatial conceptualizer of the galaxy.
Where?
Well, this was, again, in the Ava Delegadrin galaxy. And
When was this?
41.5 trillion years ago, I believe it was.
What'd you do?
I put things in size place. I organized everything.
How long did that last? That job?
7,000 to 8,000 lifetimes.
Lifetime of how long?
Probably longer than here, about 110 years each one.
Did that experience have any effect on your current life?
Yes, because I can't live like a pig, like my ex-wife. I can't. You saw her house today. It was a cyclone, right? I imagine.
I noticed your apartment is very organized.
Well,
like even the
except for
wall
the-
behind you.
Well, I'm getting there because as I put these tapes in the new boxes, see, I have the 3rd largest collection of L. Ron Hubbard's library in the world. And this means a lot to me, this having this, of this data. I mean, I don't care if as long as I have this near me, I can survive, you know, in this particular body.
When you say putting these tapes in new boxes, what are you doing?
Well, I bought these new boxes from New Era Productions, which is an org,
Right.
for $3 a box. And now I'm transferring the old boxes. They gave me labels. See, they gave me, they never do this for anybody. They did it for me. They gave me blank labels. And I'm to put I have 1,500 of them in the kitchen.
Let me ask you this. The first 4 rows, can
Yeah.
you get a pan of those? Those are all labeled.
Right.
they any in
I had to
particular
buy
order?
a machine to make the tapes. That machine there, that machine
Make the
cost
tapes or make the
$1,600
labels?
just for these strips.
Oh. Okay.
That's the machine right there. It's a Croy 190. Because you can't put data like this in junky boxes.
Are these tapes organized in any order?
Yes, in chronological order according to lecture number.
And you've got them all organized.
Up to this point, up to tape 2293.
How about the rest of the tapes?
Well, they're in chronological order too, but the numbers aren't on them. But I have a list which I got from Ken Denderfeld. In 1978, he made a list for the Sea Org of the numbers, and it's actually confidential information because only Gold has it. But I got the list, about 5 years ago.
In your job as a spatial conceptualizer, what was your responsibility?
To make sure everything in that galaxy was in size place.
Did that have any effect on the way you've led your life here, other than being orderly and neat?
Oh, yes.
Like what?
For example, when I have soups in the house, and I have alphabet soup, chicken noodle soup, or tomato soup, which I don't like tomato, I like potato soup. So when I have these soups, I eat them in alphabetical order. When I go to buy the soups in the store, if I want to eat minestrone, which starts with an M, I'm not going to buy chicken noodle soup because I've got to eat the chicken noodle soup first because it starts with a C. I'll buy minestrone and split pea because if I want to eat the minestrone, I'm not going to buy a C or a D or an E soup if I want to eat the M soup first.
Doesn't that make it a little complicated about when you want to have soup?
No, because I do things in I don't believe in randomity. I believe in doing things in a certain organized way. That's why I would be a very good Sea Org member. Because when I went and cleaned up their warehouses and put all those tapes in order, they said, "This is another hat you have. You're the librarian of the planet." You know.
How about some other experiences you had in past lives? Were you on any other planets?
Oh, yes.
Like what?
Markhab, prior to this one.
Where was Markhab?
The Markhab Confederacy. Markhab is known as the asteroid belt. It was the planet between Mars and Jupiter.
What happened to it?
Jesus Christ blew it up in another lifetime of his. And we were forced... See, Mars services... used to service Markhab, and then we did a shift over to Earth. We used the same between lives area. There is going to... When the Earth ends on September 9th, 1997, we're going to have to do a shift to the between lives area for New Arcturus.
The Earth is going to end on September 9th, 1997?
It's in my book.
You certain of that?
Oh yes, I'm certain of it because when you exteriorize and you check the future time track, you see that people are not coming back after 1997. They're being shifted onto New Arcturus, and the risk of this is very severe. Do you know the suffering that you go through when you have to go up a complete evolutionary spiral? When the last Holocaust occurred on Earth,
which was?
About 4 billion years ago, we had to take whatever bodies were available, and we had to take the bodies of single-celled protozoans. And from that, we went up the evolutionary line.
You're saying that we were more advanced before then?
We were like this. We just blew ourselves up, but the Earth was intact. But right now, with the nuclear threat, what's going to happen is that we're going to be another Markhab. The Earth gravity core is going to explode. And we're not going to be able to service, the Between Lives area will no longer be able to service Earth. So we're going to have to do a shift to the Between Lives area adjacent to New Arcturus, which is where Ron is. He's there in the event that I can't stop that by trapping Jesus Christ in his current lifetime, then obviously this planet will no longer be serviceable, and then we're all going to be joining Ron on New Arcturus.
Who's Jesus Christ in his current life?
I can't talk about it. I can't even tell you.
Why?
Because I don't want this data given out. It was given to me. It was given to me on the strictest confidence, and it's part of my mission. If you read the Holy Book of Life, my mission is to exteriorize Jesus Christ and put him put him out of ARC with everyone. And once that occurs, Earth will be okay.
Wait a second. When you say exteriorize it, how do you intend to do that?
Not with R245, believe me. Nothing that involves any violence. I'm talking about get him out of his body, coax him out of his body, and put him basically in a null sequence where he can no longer get into ARC with anyone else here.
Why can't you tell us who he is?
I can't tell you.
I'm
Is
your
he-
attorney. I'm here to help you.
I know that, but I can't tell you because I can't have any. My immediate life is not as important as my mission, and when it comes to that, I can't disclose the information.
Is he an American?
I can't discuss it.
Why? There are a lot of Americans. I won't be able to guess. If you
I
just
mean,
tell
if you
me
told him if you told us where
He's an American.
he is an American.
Yeah.
Is he a Floridian?
I'm not going to
14 million
discuss it.
people in Florida.
He's not
I
a
have better
Floridian.
odds on the lottery.
He's not a Floridian.
He's not a Floridian.
But that's it. That's as
west
far
of the
as
Mississippi?
actually
there are 12
east.
million people.
Actually, east.
East of the
New
Mississippi.
York, huh? He lives in Newark, New Jersey.
No, and I'm not going to discuss it any
Okay,
further.
all right. All right, what'd you do on the Markhab planet or the Markhab Confederacy?
I collapsed foreign currencies for a living.
You did what?
I collapsed foreign currencies for a living.
How'd you do that?
Very simple. That was my training at that point. That was why, another reason why I was chosen to, well, anyway.
You chosen to do what?
By the organization to go into becoming a stockbroker.
Yeah.
Because on Markhab, what would happen was, this. There would be a currency that was looking to borrow money from the main lending institution of the planet. The politics were a little different from here. And as soon as this country wanted to borrow money, the lending institution, of which I was their computer operator, would say, fine, you got the loan. You can pick up the loan for your country on such and such a day. At that point, I would start selling their currency short on a commodity exchange. And what would occur is that when you sell a currency short, there are no buyers, there are only sellers. And everyone would be panicked into selling the currency because we were like the World Bank. That's the analogy I can use. And as I sold the currency short, everyone else followed suit and there were no buyers. And eventually, for example, what I would do is I would buy the currency back just before it went bankrupt at the bottom. Follow? And in this way, we collapsed currencies. How we would do it is very simple. When we would promise to give them the loan, we would find some excuse not to loan them the money. Meanwhile, we had already taken our position selling the currency short. When we refused the loan, everyone else would start to sell the currency short, and we virtually collapsed the currency.
Wasn't that wrong?
No.
Why not?
Because that was my job. It was not. That was how politics were on Markhab. In fact, Peter Letteries gave me an award, which is hanging up on my wall right there, for doing that. Did you ever see that award?
No.
And I was in Who's Who in Technology Today for collapsing currencies.
There's an actual publication that you have a copy of?
Yeah, that's a
reports that?
legal document.
Okay.
Peter Letteries gave that to me as a gift.
But you said you were in Who's Who of Technology Today.
Today, as a currency collapser.
Do you have a copy of that?
No, but it's available through the Library of Congress.
Well, Who's Who in Technology Today is a Scientology.
No, it was he did that as a reward for an upstat. he entered me in Who's Who in Technology Today because on the whole track I collapsed Currencies.
But Technology Today is a Scientology publication.
No, it isn't.
No.
It is not.
It's a WOG publication?
It's a WOG publication.
So then how would they recognize such a thing which would make any sense to them?
He put me in the magazine, and there's my award.
Have you ever seen it?
I got this award in the mail.
But have you ever seen the magazine?
Not in the magazine. It was a book. Yes, I have. In fact, it's in my North Carolina house.
So you have a copy of it?
Yeah, it's somewhere up there.
Okay.
Okay.
In your whole track experience, did you get involved in any events that were fairly common in the whole track experience of other Scientologists?
Oh, yes.
What were some of those?
Well, polishing the same brick on our Lycus.
What was that?
10,000 lifetimes. Have you heard of that? That
You've
common
mentioned
experience?
it, but
Yeah.
was that fairly common for Scientologists to
I think
discover
so.
that?
I think so, because it was part of our... Where is that... Give me that page for a second. I'll show you.
What's that you're looking at?
Well, I'm particularly referring to a track map which indicates that. Our Lycus is a place where roads were built in space.
Mm-hmm.
And my job was to polish the same brick for 10,000 lifetimes. After the body would die, they would immediately give me another body. They would keep a body in pawn and give me a new body. In fact, here it says tracks of pieces of body held in pawn. This is a relationship of the thetan and the genetic entity in this particular
Is
thing.
Lycus a place that other Scientologists would be likely to
Yeah,
recognize
except they
the name
spelled
of?
it wrong. Isn't it interesting that on this map, it's, I don't know who wrote this, but they spelled it wrong. They spell it A-R-S-C-L-Y-C-U-S. The correct spelling is A-R-S-L-Y-C-H-U-S.
So Lycus would be a name that would be recognized by other Scientologists because it was part
It's
of
in
the
here.
common... Oh, okay. Why don't you read it from the technical dictionary?
Sure. I thought it was. It isn't. It isn't. I thought it was.
But where does it figure in Scientology mythology?
In what?
In Scientology mythology. In other words-
Mythology. What a suppressive thing to say.
Okay, what word would you prefer me to use?
Scientological track history.
Okay, in Scientological track history.
Mythology. Oh boy. Don't do that to me, please.
Okay.
You want me to like you?
In track history.
Okay. Well, here it is. This is a track map, which is not only for me. It's used by Scientology to track incidents. And here it is. This is not.
So Lycus is a place that every Scientologist who had been processed to the level that you had been processed
would have had some interaction with.
Okay. What are some other common place names or common experiences?
Markhab. In fact, here, Markhab, I think, is for sure in here. And needless to say, I didn't look them up because I know them so well. Markhab Confederacy. Okay? Various planets united a very vast civilization which has come up forward through the last 200,000 years. Now, that's wrong, because on my track, it was 4 billion years ago, and it was destroyed by Christ.
Was Markhab a place written about by Hubbard in some of his science fiction writings?
I don't think so.
So do you have any idea how it gets into the dictionary?
Well, because of a lot of... first of all, I'll tell you how. It was on St. Hill Special Briefing Course number 291, which is here. Yeah, I see it. Hold on a moment. It's on a tape called Auditing Com Cycles, Definition of an Auditor,
Uh-huh.
which is St. Hill Special Briefing Course 291, done on the 6th of August, 1963.
And what does Hubbard say about it on that tape?
He said it was a decadent, kicked-in-the-head society with much of the same type of things you see on Earth. In fact, what is the dictionary? It probably has that here. Ah, here it is. It's a sort of a decadent, kicked-in-the-head civilization that contains automobiles, business suits, fedora hats, telephones, spaceships, a civilization which looks almost exactly like a duplicate, but is worse off than the current U.S. civilization. It's right here.
Let me ask you this. Since your time track differs from what is in that book.
Right. Only because the dates are wrong.
How did you come upon your time track? Through the e-meter?
No, through the auditor, through my auditing.
Okay, but did he use the e-meter?
Yeah.
So it was the e-meter that was verifying the time?
Yeah, we went through different interactive cycles where Christ was a part of destroying civilizations that I had lived on. That was the essence of the search.
Did Christ keep coming up in your time track?
No, not at all. He came up once before this time. And that occurred at the very beginning when it's my whole write-up on... This is actually a KR, a knowledge report, this book. And in my chapters of the Holy Book of Life called Creation and Illusion, the first experience I had with Jesus Christ, who suppressed us and trapped us in our physical bodies, is all outlined in the book. All of this data, by the way, in the book, is based on auditing cycles.
Through the e-meter.
Through the e-meter, except I didn't say that in the book because I didn't want people to know that it came from Scientology.
Why?
Because I want them to get the data at the appropriate time. Once they see this book and they know the data, eventually I will come forward and tell them that show them with the meter. For example, when people talk to me later on, after the book is well accepted, I'll bring my meter on television and I'll show them exactly that I was his father.
So all the content of what's in that book are realizations that you had...
Cognitions. Let's use the right terminology.
Sorry. Are cognitions that you had during auditing.
Exactly.
How would you... Can you just describe the process whereby you would arrive at a cognition? Pick one out of there, or just or do a hypothetical, and just describe the process whereby you would come to a cognition and come to recognize the truth of a cognition.
Well, there's many ways to do that. One, of course, is to do the formulas outlined in self-analysis. Here's an easy way. You come up with all the perceptics connected with the mental image picture. And the auditor will ask you, well, what did it smell like on that day? What was it raining? Who was around you? What voices did you hear? And eventually you synthesize everything to do with the mental image picture. You don't just have a visio. You have a visio which is more real than you're sitting in front of the auditor.
But how, for example, would you start out a session, and would the session progress back to the point at which...
Well, the first part of a session is seeing if there's any present time problems,
right,
doing your rudiments, you know.
Right.
And
so you'd be asked if there are any present time problems, there'd be no read on the meter, and you
right,
could go on.
Right.
Right. Then what would happen next?
We would establish goals for the session.
Okay. How would that occur?
Well, the auditor would ask me, what do you wish to accomplish in this session?
And then give me an example of what you might say.
Well, I would say, here's an example. I'd like to find out why I didn't like milk.
Okay, and then what would happen next?
And then we would discuss, the auditor would direct me to view certain incidents in my lifetime regarding somatics on milk.
Okay, so you
we would go to the earliest incident.
All right.
We'd run it like an engram.
Right.
You know.
Okay, so you run it back through this life.
Yeah.
And then would you just go past lives on it?
Yeah.
And...
Because, for example, on milk, my mother once drank milk while she was carrying me. And I vomited in her stomach. I vomited. And I went through the incident vomiting in her stomach.
Well, how did that come to pass?
Okay, let's say you get that cognition and you've got a charge on it on the meter.
Right, I actually vomited again. I was vomiting there. But I was not there. I was in my mother's stomach.
Okay. How would the charge on that cognition be reduced?
I'd have to keep reviewing the incident and re-stimulating it.
Until you no longer got to read on the meter.
Until I no longer had to read, and then we would go to an earlier incident.
And so you would just keep looking for an earlier incident until one occurred.
Yeah.
And then you would
It's
describe
like doing
that,
fish and fumble.
and then you would describe that incident fully.
Right.
And then you keep reviewing the incident until the charge
Go to the
disappeared.
earliest incident on the track that you could find where there's any charge. And then what we would do is we would do a check. I would go to a past life where I loved milk. See?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a control in scientific terminology. Where I would find a lifetime prior to that where I loved milk. You know. And I would be drinking milk, wasting milk, feeding milk to babies, you know, all the different things you can do with milk. Even a milk enema, you know. And I found that, well, at that time I was fine, you know. That was after the milk issue had been destimulated. So we wanted to make sure it wasn't from an earlier incident. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works. And whole track incidents are run the same way. For example, take for example this one. 955 quadrillion years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where I smashed a bubble of light. It was a crime. It was an overt act. Because that light was a source of theta. It was a source of pleasure, shall I say in English, for other thetans. And I deliberately smashed a bubble of light and inhibited theta by creating n theta.
This is what I'm trying to understand. How did you come to that realization? You're sitting there. What caused that thought to come?
That thought came from a lifetime where I was blind. And the way I found this incident is to go back to the first time that I had any overts on light. This is how the processes work. Let's say you have a somatic, like an upset stomach or an ulcer. You look for anyone close to you that had an ulcer, like a father or a grandfather or someone. Then you look for the overt act where you harmed that person.
But how do you find it? You're sitting there with an auditor, right?
You review pictures.
You mean you...
All you're doing when you're auditing is reviewing pictures. You're reviewing mental image pictures that the auditor asks you to look at.
Okay. How does you know which pictures... How do those pictures come about? Does
The auditor says, what's that picture? He's looking... I'm here with the cans, and the meter is here. I don't see the meter.
Right.
I got the cans in my hand, like so. I always like my needles up. Okay. I have the cans like here, so. And he's saying, let's look at some pictures. And...
Do you close your eyes? How do you...
He's actually going to do this. Okay. You know, he would have been such a great Scientologist if he wasn't a
wog.
This guy, he would have been, you know where he could have gone? He could have been at management, this guy. You know?
Okay.
So anyway, I'm looking at pictures. You got it set?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, it's flat. Okay, good. You know what you're doing. Okay. What sensitivity did you use? Oh, okay. Ah! Okay.
Hey, don't second guess me.
I know. I just want to make sure. Because you haven't used the Super 7 yet, you know.
That's right.
And I'm looking at a picture, because this is how I'm holding the cans, you know. And the auditor says to me, look at a picture. For example, right now, I'm thinking of a picture that's unpleasant. Follow?
Yeah.
And I'm getting some charge on it. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what we do is we look at that picture until the charge on it is gone.
But how does the auditor know which picture you're looking at?
He asks me. He said to me, look at a picture of, let's say, well, I'll use the milk example again. Let's say you look at a picture of you drinking the milk that Gabrielle gave you, which was poisoned.
Okay. How does he know to ask that question?
Oh, well, let's say we've gotten to that point. We review an incident, then we look for an earlier incident. He'll say, let's look at an earlier incident. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you...
So he asks you an open-ended question, what do you see, what do you hear? And you come up with an answer of what you see or what you hear?
Right.
And then from there he asks another question?
That's right.
All right.
And he gets the reads, and the auditor directs the show. He directs the session based on what he is reading on the meter.
Why don't you think about the time when Umberto cut your arm? Think about it now.
Okay.
Go back to it.
Yeah.
Can you be there?
I'm there.
What does it feel like?
Painful. Very painful.
Come back to the room.
Okay.
You hear?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have had the settings wrong on there because we're not getting any reaction on the meter.
You're reading me on low. That's why.
Oh, okay.
All right. Put it on what?
Let me just
You can only read a person that's... You're reading me on a setting for people that aren't clear.
Trim this down and set it.
Set it the right way.
Okay.
And then we're going to do this again.
I have to do all your work for you, too. All right.
Yeah, I haven't had any training.
Hold on. First of all, you were reading me on low, and you were reading me much too high for that setting.
Oh, okay. Sorry.